Where acting is concerned, preparation is key, as even the least demanding role requires an actor to turn up to set with their lines learned and in appropriate physical condition to play their part. But sometimes, for one of many reasons, an actor shows up ready to film having prepared in the entirely wrong way. From learning the wrong accent, to bulking up too much, doing some misguided research, or even just shaving their whole beard off. In many cases, this caused issues on set and forced the filmmakers to pivot their original plans, coming up with a quick solution to ensure that filming as a whole wasn't impacted. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with actors who prepared totally wrong for a role. Ian McKellen learned the wrong accent, the keep. Ian McKellen is about as much of a pro as actors get, but in a recent interview with Variety, he revealed that a miscommunication between himself and director Michael Mann on 1983's cult horror film The Keep led to him learning the wrong accent for the part. According to McKellen, Mann told him to develop a Romanian accent to play the role of a Jewish history professor, prompting McKellen to characteristically whole-ass the job by visiting Romania and getting first-hand experience to learn the accent. But when the actor finally made it to set for the first day of shooting, Mann instead told him to play the role with a Chicago accent, which caused friction between the two. McKellen wasn't prepared to play the part with a twang from the Windy City, and so basically opted for a broader generic American accent. Combined with the hours he had to spend in the makeup chair each day in order to appear older, McKellen called The Keep his worst movie-making experience. Ryan Gosling gained too much weight, the lovely bones. For Peter Jackson's 2009 adaptation of hit novel The Lovely Bones, Ryan Gosling was initially cast to play Jack Salmon, the father of murdered protagonist Susie Salmon. Yet during the pre-production process, Gosling reportedly got twitchy about appearing too young for the part, given that the then 26-year-old actor had to persuasively resemble the father of a 14-year-old girl. And so, Gosling made the decision to both grow a large beard and gain 60 pounds of weight by drinking melted Haagen-Dazs ice cream whenever he got thirsty. Ooh. Because Jackson was extremely busy during pre-production, he and Gosling had minimal communication until shooting approached. And when Gosling turned up on set, Jackson wasn't best thrilled at the radical choice he made without consulting him. And with that, Gosling was fired from the movie and, in his own words, was left fat and unemployed. Harris Dickinson studied being a mechanic for a cut plot, Triangle of Sadness. It's incredibly common for actors to extensively research the internal lives of their characters in order to get in character, such as working the job that their character does in the story. And so it seemed totally reasonable that up-and-comer Harris Dickinson studied as a car mechanic while prepping to play model Carl in the Oscar-nominated black comedy Triangle of Sadness. Except, wait a minute, was there anything in the movie about Carl being a mechanic while breaking into the modelling industry? Nope. Well, there was in the film's original script, which detailed that Carl was working as a mechanic when he was scouted to be a model. And so Dickinson did a lot of research around cars and being a mechanic, only to turn up on set and be told that this element of Carl's character had been excised from the script during revisions. I mean, there's nothing in the final film that prevents this from being Carl's secret backstory, so if it helped Dickinson develop a sense of his character regardless of the cuts, then what's the harm? Beyond all the wasted time, of course. Fran Drescher took vocal lessons to eliminate her nasal voice, The Beautician and the Beast. In 1997's rom-com The Beautician and the Beast, actress Fran Drescher, and current president of the Screen Actors Guild, don't you forget, portrayed Joy Miller, a New Yorker beautician who is mistaken for a science teacher by an Eastern European dictator. In an attempt to more persuasively sell that balmy conceit, Drescher decided to ditch her signature nasal accent, even going to the bother of taking vocal lessons to subdue her natural nasal quality and sound less quote-unquote grating. But when Drescher made it to set sporting a new vocal tenor, the producers were taken aback and insisted that she toss all that voice training out with the bathwater. As it turns out, the filmmakers cast Drescher precisely because of her distinctive accent, as they felt it would further enhance the culture clash element of the silly story. All the same, Drescher received a Razzie nomination for Worst Actress for her work on the film, and reviews commonly cited her voice as annoying and off-putting. Whoopsie. Brian Cox lost 45 pounds and dyed his hair red, red eye. The great Brian Cox was cast in Wes Craven's 2005 thriller Red Eye after the filmmakers saw his terrific performance as CIA station chief in The Bourne Supremacy during pre-production. However, between being cast and turning up to shoot his supporting role in Craven's film as the father of Rachel McAdams' protagonist, Cox intentionally lost around 45 pounds after being diagnosed with diabetes, and had dyed his hair red to perform a play in Scotland. It wasn't quite what Craven and co were expecting when they hired Cox. They anticipated a hefty, white-haired man to portray McAdams' father, rather than the more slimmed-down, red-haired guy who showed up on set. There wasn't anything to be done about Cox's weight, but the production had the actor's hair dyed black. It's far from a subtle dye job, and presumably aggressive enough to ensure that there wasn't even the faintest trace of red left on his noggin. I mean, the movie's not called Redhead, after all. At the time, Cox noted that even his own agent became concerned about how much the weight loss had changed his appearance, with the actor joking that he had made himself unemployable. But at least healthy, eh? Henry Fonda grew a moustache and wore dark contact lenses once upon a time in the West. It cannot be overstated how much of a big deal it was to see Henry Fonda playing the villainous outlaw Frank in 1968's Western Once Upon a Time in the West. It was a far cry from the upstanding, heroic characters Fonda was better known for portraying, and after some initial trepidation, he agreed to take the part. But on the first day of shooting, Fonda arrived on set with a moustache and wearing brown contact lenses, feeling that the physical transformation would make it easier for audiences to accept him playing an evil character. Yet the director saw the matter completely differently and was excited to shock the audience by having Fonda play a child murderer. He wanted viewers to know precisely who they were looking at, to recognize Fonda's distinctive face and deep blue eyes, and so immediately ordered him to remove the contacts and have his tash shaved off. And boy, it was certainly the right decision, as that initial reveal of Frank's face just pops. Anushka Hempel got a tan to play Dracula's bride. Scars of Dracula. Here's something you've probably never even thought about. Actors can create a cluster headache for makeup artists if they arrive on set fresh off a sun holiday and it doesn't suit the director's vision for the character or even make basic narrative sense. Case in point, in 1970's Scars of Dracula, Anushka Hempel was cast to play Dracula's imprisoned vampire mistress. The part required Hempel to be pale-skinned, being Dracula's vampiric plaything after all, and so makeup artist Roy Ashton became a teensy bit cheesed off when she reported to set sporting a deep tan from a recent holiday to sunny Barbados. Though Ashton evidently did his best to apply makeup to Hempel's face and body to give her a more pallid complexion, there's no mistaking her very obvious tan throughout the film, especially in comparison to Christopher Lee's more appropriately pasty, washed-out appearance. Given that Hempel bears a fair amount of skin throughout the film, there was surely only so much that they could do to conceal her golden glow. Dermot Crowley shaved his beard, Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. You may not remember the name Crix Medine, but you might recall the rebel general in Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi who devises the plan to destroy the second Death Star's shield generator. More to the point, there's a good chance you noticed the very obvious fake beard glued to the guy's face, because apparently a $40 million sci-fi epic couldn't afford some decent facial hair makeup. Yet there's more to the story than this. Madine's actor, Dermot Crowley, risked causing a not insignificant kerfuffle for the production when he turned up to set with a clean-shaven face, given that even the most minor of Star Wars characters have their own action figures and peripheral merchandise prepared in advance. When Crowley reported to set to shoot his small role, the action figures for Madine had already been manufactured and showed him rocking a decent growth of facial hair. And so, in order to not create a legal issue with the toy company, Crowley was quickly fitted with the infamously naff fake beard. I mean, just look at that thing. Henry Cavill got too ripped to play an everyman, the cold light of day. When you think everyman, you probably don't imagine Henry Cavill, an actor who for the last decade has mostly portrayed impossibly buff, larger-than-life heroes like Superman. All the same, Cavill wasn't quite so known for being a beefcake back in 2011, when he was hired to star in the action thriller The Cold Light of Day as a regular bloke who is forced to take action when his family is kidnapped. However, Cavill had recently finished shooting the fantasy action film Immortals, where he played the extremely ripped Greek mythic hero Theseus, and so when he made it to set to shoot his new movie, he still retained much of that chiseled physique. The director soundly informed Cavill that his look was entirely wrong for a character who was intended to be an everyman, and he needed to shed as much of his muscle tone as possible in the days before filming was to start. Cavill apparently achieved this by eating and drinking whatever he wanted and doing no exercise whatsoever. The end result ultimately isn't very convincing, but then nothing in this movie is, so he shouldn't feel too bad. Ryan Phillippe dyed his hair blue without telling anyone, playing by heart. A slightly less troublesome entry than most on this list now, albeit one that still shows an actor making a judgment call about their character's appearance without consulting anybody else. For the 1998 dramedy Playing by Heart, Ryan Phillippe decided to dye his hair blue and didn't run this decision by the writer, director, producers, the makeup department, or anyone else. Phillippe simply decided to show up on set sporting a dyed head of hair, surprising the cast and crew, but the director ultimately decided that he liked the look and it suited Phillippe's character, and so allowed the actor to keep it. It's also worth noting that Phillippe's co-star Angelina Jolie similarly has her hair dyed red throughout the film, though reports vary online as to whether or not this was motivated by Phillippe's radical hair colour change or not. All the same, Phillippe's unexpected dye job makes this otherwise forgettably competent movie just a little more memorable.